Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to Organizing an ADHD Brain, the podcast for anyone who's ready to ditch the shame and get organized in a way that actually works with their brain. I'm Megs, a professional organizing coach, organizing an ADHD brain owner, and recovering clutter human. While I work primarily with women, this space is for anyone who wants practical tools, mindset shifts, and a new way to look at time, stuff, and self-worth. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, scattered, or stuck in a cycle of starting and stopping, you're not alone. And you're in the right place. Let's build a life that feels calm, doable, and aligned, one mindful move at a time.
Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Organizing an ADHD Brain. I am coming to you from my closet. And if you've been here since the very beginning, you know that when I first started recording my podcast, I was recording in my closet. Part of it is because the sound is soaked up by all of the clothes. And another reason is because the room that I normally record the podcast in, all the stuff has been sold. And I still have a desk in there, but it is so echoey, even with all the soundproof tiles. And it feels so weird. It's just weird. Things are changing, and I feel like my nervous system is a little out of whack. Some days I ask myself, what the hell am I doing? And then other days, I know that we're on this new adventure for a reason and that there's something calling us back east. This week, I wanted to record this podcast because I have a lot of clients who have people in their life that don't understand what ADHD is. So I'm going to attempt to talk to you about what's going on inside my brain, but then also share some experiences that I've heard from other people so that people who are quote unquote neurotypical might start to understand what it's like to truly have ADHD and how we're not trying to make your life more difficult by having ADHD, but this is just our lived experience. This episode is dedicated to the woman whose husband didn't even believe that ADHD was real until their son got diagnosed and started to understand his lived experience. This episode is dedicated to any of you who have been called lazy, but can't understand how to take that quote unquote laziness out of your life. It's dedicated to the people who have felt misunderstood most of their lives, but also feel like they can conquer the world in some aspects of their life. It's dedicated to all of you, really. And I hope this is exactly what you need to hear. And I hope that this brings some clarity to the people in your life if you can send this to them to help them understand truly what you're going through. The things that I'll talk to you about during this episode are executive function. And when I talk about executive function, that is the ability to break larger tasks into smaller tasks, like truly break it down into step-by-step instructions that we can understand. I'm going to talk about time blindness and not truly having a concept behind the time that we're spending on something or the time that something needs to happen. I'm going to talk a little bit about impulsivity and the fact that that is a real common thing that comes along with having ADHD, and it's part of our fight or flight response when we are trying to deal with life in general or something that triggers us. And I'll also talk to you a little bit about emotions. We feel emotions really, really big, and oftentimes a lot bigger than neurotypical people, which is why sometimes we can have bigger emotional outbursts. And that could be on both ends of the spectrum. It could be with anger, but it can also be with happiness. Sometimes people with ADHD are some of the most fun people to be around. It's hard to separate organizing out of all of the other ADHD stuff. So I will talk about it today, but I'm also going to talk about the other stuff that comes along because all of it's important. I really can't separate me from the ADHD. So there are some things that you'll hear that you may not experience. And there are some things that you won't hear because I just haven't said them yet. I am going to do a follow-up episode where I'll talk a little bit more about your experiences. So after you're done today, please send me an email, info@organizinganadhdbrain.com. Send me your story. Tell me what you would like your neurotypical friends and families to understand about you so I can share it on a future podcast episode. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. I get excited about a lot of things. We have an interest-based nervous system. And what that means is that doing mundane tasks like washing the dishes or throwing away trash brings us no excitement whatsoever. Even when we complete it, which is why oftentimes we're going to avoid doing the things that we know we need to do the things that we really want to do. And that's why you'll find people with ADHD maybe painting a mural in the living room instead of washing the dishes that have been there for 6 days. Very real thing that could be happening. But I get excited about a lot of things. And what I mean by that is I get excited about my business. I get excited about the growth of my business and the podcast, but I also love gardening and I love coloring and I love painting and I love doing crafts with my kids and I love being a mom. And I also want to go to literally every event, not only at my kids' school, but I want to sign them up for everything. I want to be the best daughter-in-law you could ever have. And I also want to be the best wife and I want to be the best mom. I also want to be the best friend, but not just to one person. I want to be the best friend to 25 people because everyone is important. Everything is important. There's so many things out there that are so amazing, except when everything is important, nothing is important. And oftentimes we underestimate the amount of time that goes into truly developing relationships that mean something to us. So I get excited about a lot and I love to take charge. I want to be in charge of a lot. I know I can do it all. But then when it comes down to actually going to all of these events and actually being friends with everyone and actually being the best at everything I could possibly want to do, I don't take time into consideration there. I'm just excited because I truly want all of that. But when everything is important, nothing is important because I cannot take my brain and focus on one thing because I have extended it to everything. Which, why does this relate to organizing? Because when I'm overextending myself, not only on my kids' activities, but also with friend activities and family activities and trying to get my business going and doing this and that, it means that organizing gets put on the back burner. It's overwhelming, but that's the thing that I would have chosen to ignore. I know that it's there. It's incredibly overwhelming to me, but I don't have time to stop and do it. And guess what? It's not going to bring me any dopamine. So I'm going to continue to ignore it and I'm going to do the things that are way more fun, even though I'm overwhelmed. So now I have no time on my hand. And I'm also trying to do all of these organizing things. But I say this because sometimes people equate not being organized and having clutter everywhere with being lazy. But that's not it at all. It's just the fact that, one, we were never taught, and organizing is a lot harder than one might think. I went into this business thinking, yeah, of course I can be an organizer. And now that I know so much, I'm like, holy crap, no wonder I failed so much based on all of my efforts in trying to do this. But yes, okay, so number one, you weren't taught how to get this organizing done. Number two, you don't have any time. We were never meant to be this busy, but we are so constantly busy and inundated with stuff. And honestly, I'd much rather go and scroll on my phone and get a dopamine hit than go and organize something that I'm not going to be able to keep organized after a long time anyway. Also, caveat to this, this is who I was. This isn't who I am anymore as far as the organizing piece. I've done a lot on building trust with myself and believing in myself to keep things organized. And I have that trust now because I have practiced. So this is a little bit of a blend between who I am and who I was then. My ADHD hasn't gone away, but there are a lot of ways that I've learned how to work with my brain to understand how I can be organized and keep a home where I don't have to struggle to clean it every time someone's coming over, and so on and so forth. Okay, but that's one of the reasons why I say when everything is important, nothing is important. I say that so much because when we're so focused on everything, we can't be focused on anything, which means that our expertise and our insanely creative, beautiful brains are going to be so spread thin that the overwhelm is going to take over and we're not going to be able to use our brains to their fullest potential. People pleasing is in my nature. My whole life, I have been trying to make other people happy and just showing up because I love it when other people are happy. I am, by nature, just a positive person, right? And I try not to be too positive because, again, I see everybody complaining about people being too positive everywhere. And I'm like, no, I don't want that to be me. I need to complain about something just so that they see I'm a normal human. Okay, but that was me people pleasing again. I'm a genuinely positive person, but also crap happens. And I'm happy to talk about that too. But I would prefer to look at things on the bright side. That's just who I am as a person. I'm not going to apologize for that ever. People pleasing has always been in my nature, and I didn't realize I was doing it. But I've constantly showed up to try to make others happy, to try to predict what other people want. I don't ask them. I just think that I know what they want. What a dickhead move that was. How dare I decide what someone else wants without even confirming with them? Here I am just walking around assuming I know what's going to make everyone else happy. And I've never taken the time to truly look inward and ask myself what I wanted. So 2 weekends ago for my birthday, we went up to Breckenridge in Colorado. And we haven't really taken time away since I started this business because I'm not getting a corporate salary like I used to. I was really excited. We had our kids come up on Saturday, and I was trying to think, what would everyone want to do? And then I was like, whoa, what do I want to do? And asking myself that question allowed me to say, okay, I want to go hiking for sure. My husband and my daughter do not like hiking. My other daughter does. So I was like, okay, but what could we do where it's an everyone thing? And my husband actually told me that he didn't like hiking because it always felt like we were in a rush to get to the top or to get somewhere, or it was super boring until we got to the adventure at the top. And then my other daughter, she just really doesn't like bugs. So we found this hike that I wanted to go on, but would make everyone else happy at the same time. And my husband had said in the car on the way there that morning that he wanted to see a moose. So we took this beautiful hike and we saw a moose in the wild. It was so cool. This has nothing to do with ADHD, but it does have everything to do with focusing on what I wanted instead of what everyone else wanted. By doing something that I wanted to do, everyone else was happy as well. And we were able to create this really beautiful, incredible memory. But people pleasing is exhausting. And I don't know why I do it. It's actually truly uncomfortable when I'm thinking about what I want instead of what other people want. But in the end, I have been able to create boundaries in a way that I've never been able to do my entire life. And it has been so powerful. But for some of you listening, you might still be at the beginning by saying, oh, I'm a recovering people pleaser, but you're like, I have no idea what the hell to do to not do the things that I've done my whole life. And one of them is to start asking, oh, what do I want? What do I want? Because in the end, that is what matters. And that's what's going to fill up your cup when you think about what you want. And not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that, hey, what do I need right now? And then how is that going to support me showing up for others as well? But moving on to how loud it is in my brain. My brain is constantly on, it is constantly going, and it is constantly thinking of the next thing. It's like a runaway train, a train that's leaving the station. It might start off a little bit slow, but then it starts going downhill and there's absolutely no brakes on the train. And it is a train of thought. Haha, that's probably why they have that phrase. But that train of thought takes us down this pathway of connecting all of these new neural pathways to understand what's next. Now, this could happen in so many different ways. I'll just give you an example. This is how my brain works. I'm going to try to do this in real time. I'm sitting here in my closet and I'm looking at this dress that I wore for my niece's wedding, and it's beautiful and I've worn it twice. So do I keep it or do I let it go? Now, it looks really good on me, but ultimately I've already worn it a couple times. I've taken pictures in it. So do I really need to keep it? But isn't that stupid? Why do we have to let go of something that has been worn a couple times and people have seen it in pictures before? I'm not like a queen or a princess or anything. It doesn't matter if I wear things multiple times, and I really like this dress. Anyway, I could continuously go on this path. I would start to think about maybe the wedding I was at where I wore it, or maybe my little birthday party that I wore it at. I don't know that that's the greatest example, but when I start to think about myself as lazy or not a good friend, or I start to doubt myself, and this typically happens around the time of my month that I'm getting my period. That is when my brain turns into a really, really mean place to be. And that's because my hormones are changing during that time. So I'm not getting the regular dose of the things that my body uses to thrive. When I start to think of myself in a negative way, my train of thought connects me to all of the reasons why this is true. And it'll continue to take me down this runaway train of thought unless I'm practicing ways to put the brakes on. This can also happen in business ideas. I can get a new business idea and take this on a new train of thought, connecting all of these incredible ideas together. And it truly brings a fresh set of a dopamine hit to my brain. It's so exciting. But I'm constantly thinking about things. Very recently, I have been asking my husband what he means by saying certain things out loud. And it's been kind of fascinating because I always thought that I knew what he meant by saying certain things. But by clarifying with him, it's actually helped me understand him a little bit more. And sometimes when I'm asking him, like, did you mean to say it this way? He's like, oh my gosh, no, that is not what I meant to say by saying that. But I am constantly creating stories in my head about what's going on, which I then have to take it a step back and say, okay, what is true? What's really true in this situation? What do I know to be a fact so that I could take it from there? The point of me saying this is that sometimes we are very good at ignoring what's going on around us because it's so loud in our brains, because we are going down this pathway of no return. And we're in the back part of our brain. We're not necessarily in our prefrontal cortex where we do all of the executive functioning and the real thinking. We are somewhere else. We've literally gone to this other land. It's daydreaming, I guess, but it's more of just like my brain is always on. It's constantly on. I'm constantly thinking of what to do next, what I'm doing next. There's colors, there's patterns, there's all kinds of things happening on there, but I can't turn it off. It's very, very difficult to turn it off. My daughter actually told me the other day that she couldn't hear me because her brain was too loud. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that you were able to find those words and tell me that. I don't know that I would have been able to say that as a kid. Here's another example of what ADHD is like. I would imagine a lot of you can relate to this in our day-to-day. I can be on my way to do something and I know exactly what I'm doing next. And I'm actually genuinely excited about it. Like I feel the feeling in my body of what I'm doing next and I go to do it and then it's gone. I don't know what it was that I was going to do. Sometimes it's crossing the threshold into a new room. You just walk into it and you're like, I don't know why I'm here. I just know that I'm supposed to be here. And that's why we sometimes retrace our steps to go back to where we came from to see how we got there. This is actually working memory. I forgot to say this in the beginning, but working memory is the part of our brain where we store the things that we want to do in our prefrontal cortex so that we know what's coming next. But because our brain is working so fast and we're getting distracted by things along the way, the working memory slots that we have can get bumped pretty easily. There would be times when I would be in the car and I knew that I would have to do something on the way home. And I would be saying it to myself and I'm like, okay, what if I repeated this in my head a couple of times? As I was repeating this, I would be like, I know that as soon as I get home, I'm going to forget. How do I make peace with this? And I would be annoyed. I would have the thing in my mind and I know that I need to do this. But as soon as I got home, it would be out the window. And sure enough, I would get home and I would forget. It's so frustrating because there are things I genuinely know I want and need to do. In the corporate world, I used to play with silly putty all day long. And I would make this little snapping noise. In fact, in some of the podcasts, you can actually hear me playing with it in the background. But the silly putty helps to keep me focused on the task at hand. So I'll do it while I'm working through my to-do list with my business. I'll do it while I'm on the phone with clients. I will do it while I'm recording a podcast. I'm not actually doing it right now because I am smushed in between my drawers behind the dress I was just talking about and the massage table we have sitting in the back of our closet. Fidgeting is very helpful because of our hyperactivity, and hyperactivity can show up in the brain, right? ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The hyperactivity, oftentimes people don't realize that the hyperactivity is in the word because it's either hyperactive in our brain or hyperactive in our body, and oftentimes it is both. Regardless, the hyperactivity in our bodies, we just need to be doing something. I remember as a kid, we would watch Touched by an Angel on Sunday nights before the week started, and I was always looking forward to it. But my mom would never come and sit down. She was just always doing something. It was washing the dishes, or she had to clean the kitchen, or then she had to put things away. And then I think she knew that once she sat down, she wasn't going to be able to do all these other things. So playing with something helps keep me focused on what I want to do. So I will actually play with Silly Putty while we're watching TV so that I stay and I focus on what I'm doing. But that is also a state of dysregulation where I'm just like, I'm in go mode. So I feel like I need to keep going, to be doing something, to be productive because I'm in this productive mode. And I'm afraid that if I stop, that I'm going to lose all the momentum and all the things that I would have gotten done by stopping in this moment. I'm not going to be able to get done anymore, which is so interesting. And I don't have enough time to get into it today. When it comes to ADHD, we have been in a fight or flight mode our entire life. And fight or flight shows up in multiple ways: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This gets triggered by our amygdala. Our amygdala is in the back of our brain. I actually used to do a presentation on this in the corporate world, having no idea I had ADHD, but how the amygdala responded in certain situations. The amygdala is our response mechanism in the brain that helps us understand if we need to run from a lion or if we can play with it, if it's a friendly lion. But in most cases, our fight or flight response with ADHD has been triggered our entire lives. In fact, ADHD, I learned this from a therapist friend of mine, the ADHD symptoms that we have are very similar to trauma symptoms in trauma victims. Regardless, this fight or flight response we have shows up in multiple places in our lives. And it's this state of dysregulation, being in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, that prevents us from getting the things done that we need to get done, like clutter, like eliminating the additional stuff we have in our life. Perfectionism is actually a fight or flight response, and we strive for perfectionism because, well, we want to be the best at everything we do. Perfectionism shows up in our clutter and in the stuff that we have all over the place. And oftentimes it's there because we want this perfect end result. We want a Pinterest perfect pantry. We want this after that looks so incredibly amazing. We want to be able to do it in a weekend, which is why you'll find us emptying an entire closet to be able to get something done, because we're going to put it back in the most intricately amazing way you could have ever thought possible. But the thing is that we got all of this dopamine in the beginning of the project, and then halfway through, we lost interest because it's not interesting anymore. It's exhausting. There's so many decisions that come with organizing and letting go. And oftentimes there's steps that we forget along the way, like decluttering. And instead of decluttering, we're just organizing our chaos. And when we organize our chaos, we do it in a way at the end that feels like it could work, but then we forget to communicate and we don't put labels on things. And we just hope for the best, only to find out that days later, I've ruined it, the family's ruined it. And why would I ever try to do something like this again? It's exhausting. So I still want so much the perfection, but now I'm going to avoid it until I can take 2 weeks off and truly be organized. But we all know that that's not realistic either. And honestly, a lot of the times we approach our clutter like we are being attacked by a lion. So some of us go off and we research, how many ways can we attack this clutter? How much can I learn about being organized before I do this so I can start to take action? And then we don't take action. Or I fight it because someone's coming over. So I'm going to throw everything in a cabinet, or I'm going to put everything in the front room that nobody's going to go in, like Monica's closet in Friends. We're going to just hide everything and it doesn't matter. That's just where it's going to go. Or I'm going to flip all over the place. I'm going to start in one area and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do a little bit here, but then I'm going to start a load of laundry and then I'm going to do some dishes. But nothing is ever going to get done because I'm going from one place to another. That's flight. Or I'm going to see it, I'm going to be annoyed by it, be overwhelmed, and I'm going to be frozen. I'm not going to be able to take another step in the direction of where I want to go. Those are all of these crazy ways that we approach our clutter. And honestly, I've approached my clutter in every single one of these ways. Our brains are just different. And that's why it's neurodivergence, right? Divergence is difference. When we have a different brain, we have to learn how to work with our brains that make sense for us and with us. But oftentimes, with so much of the world not understanding how our brains work, including ourselves, when the whole world expects us to act and perform a certain way and we're not able to do it, they label us in their own way by saying you're lazy or you get distracted really easily. You're not able to focus. How many times have we all heard something like that? Or why the hell do you keep procrastinating something? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? And we're made to feel so awful about the things that genuinely are symptoms of the way that our brain works. A woman commented on a Threads post that I had. Her name is Laura Milross. It looks like she's another ADHD coach. And she said it's like being given an iPhone when you've used an Android your entire life. What a powerful statement that is. Having ADHD is like being given the keys to an airplane or a jet that can go incredibly fast, but you don't have a pilot's license. My digital sidekick, who I interviewed too, her name is Amanda. You're going to hear her on the podcast soon. She said it's like living in a jungle of overstimulation, trying to chart a path through it with tenderness and tenacity, all while my mind holds all the ideas, all the feelings, and all the half-finished projects. When you're learning how to work with your brain that's different, and you've been expected to perform and to be a certain way your entire life, it feels really overwhelming. But then you start to listen to podcasts and you start to see that, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this. That's how I started. I read a book and I was like, holy crap, other people have ADHD too. This is amazing. And my brain isn't the only one like mine out there. And when you start to see that learning how to work with yourself actually helps you live a life that's more peaceful and one that you can actually start to breathe a little bit, you can start to trust yourself a little bit, you start to understand how you can ask other people for help. Or you can send this podcast to them and say, I'm not lazy. This is just how my brain works. And actually, if you supported me and you said things like, hey, I see that you might be struggling with this. How might I be able to support you? And the first answer, honestly, might be, I have no idea. But the fact that you asked me is so incredible. And thank you so much. Because by someone asking you that question, you start to look for it too. Like, I wonder how someone could help me through this. How could it be beneficial if they, broke things down? Like, hey, I have this project I've been putting off forever in my closet or outside or gardening. Someone might be able to see that and say, hey, I noticed that you bought those plants last week, but you still haven't been able to plant them. And it looks like they might be dying. I know that you have a lot on your plate. Gardening probably is not the best example because that's the first thing I'm going to do to avoid everything else I have going on in my life. Okay, let's think of something else. Oh, let's come back to the mural we were talking about. We could say, hey, I noticed that you're almost done with that mural and you've got the paint and all the paintbrushes still sitting out and it looks like there's a lot of stuff there. I'd love to be able to help you put that back together. Is there a way that I can support you getting that done? Is there a way that we can make it fun again so you feel like you can complete this project? Because we get such a good dopamine hit at the beginning of a project that we want to get it done. It's not that we don't want it, but that dopamine is not there anymore. So getting back to a project that's already in motion doesn't feel as great. That's also often why we have so many hobbies that we don't come back to. And then we have like a hobby grave that we need to go and bury somewhere. I could go on and on and on about how my brain works for so long. But I really want to hear from you. So please reach out to me, info@organizinganadhdbrain.com. What do you want someone who's neurotypical to understand about your brain so that they can start to work with you instead of against you? And this is so important when it comes to organizing, but also in how you live your life, advocating for yourself in your work and being an entrepreneur or just as an employee. There's so many different ways that understanding your brain is going to support you. And just because you listen to this podcast doesn't mean that your brain works like mine. It just means that you have a neurodivergence that you get to get behind and start to understand in a way that's going to make sense for you. I have a community. It's called Organizing an ADHD Brain. It's on the platform that is Circle. I love it. The people in there are beautiful. And this month, we're talking about the tools that we use and never come back to. And actually, what's really cool is the conversation this month is we're also talking about the tools that we have come back to. A lot of us have actually tried something and then we gave up for a year and then came back to it a year later, which is so cool to hear because I knew I did that and I see other people are doing that too. At the end of this month, you are no longer going to be able to sign up for the community. I'm closing it for the summer as we're focusing on the move. I'm still going to be super active in there, but I really want to take time to nurture the people that are there, get to know them. When you do sign up, after you complete onboarding, which is like super easy videos to walk through so you understand how to use the community, you get a free 30-minute coaching with me so that we can talk about what's most important for you. I got that from Russ from the ADHD Brothers. So thank you, Russ. Shout out to you. It's been so great just getting to know the people that are there. Community is so beneficial, especially when you know that you're not the only one going through this. You're not. I do have one spot left for coaching this summer, only one, and then I'm going to start a wait list for the fall. I only worked with a limited amount of people one-on-one. It's so important to me that I'm able to dive into your life and really get to know you, because that's the only way we can start to create solutions that make sense for your brain. This is not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. I'm working with you to find out what works for you, and then, of course, providing you with expertise along the way. So if you're interested, reach out. My calendar is in the show notes below. Join the community by going to organizinganadhdbrain.com/community. You'll see all the events that we have going on, everything else that's going on. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to continue to keep you up to date with this journey of letting everything go, moving across the country. It is definitely a lesson in understanding what my nervous system can handle now that we're making such a gigantic change. Actually, today I donated literally 250 CDs and DVDs to Goodwill. It made me a little sick at first, and I did it because we never used them. Why am I keeping these things that we never use? And then I started going off on this, like, we spent so much money on CDs and DVDs and we had ownership of them, and now we stream literally everything. I kept probably about 100 DVDs for the girls if we do decide to buy a motorhome to drive across the country. But for now, that will count towards tax savings next year. And I feel good about that. And if someone goes to Goodwill and finds those incredible CDs and also this Indiana Jones computer game that I had a really long time ago, that was probably one of my favorite computer games ever to play, I hope it just makes their life better. Next week, I'm really excited. I am going to have my friend Ingershay on. I met her on LinkedIn. She is a community for Black women with ADHD. I am so pumped to shout her out because every woman, every man, anyone with ADHD needs to find their right community to help them thrive in life. I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I love being a part of your journey, and I hope you found something helpful to take with you. If you're ready to get support in organizing your ADHD life, I'd love to invite you to join my community. It's a space built just for you. And if you're curious about coaching, let's chat. I encourage you to book a free call just to see if it's the right fit. You can get on my calendar directly from the show notes below, and we can have a chat. A quick reminder, I am not a doctor or a medical professional. Everything I share is based on my own experience as well as my coaching expertise. So please consult your doctor for any medical or ADHD related concerns. Until next time, keep going. Right where you are is a great place to start.